It's not often that a multi-billion-dollar industry pops up overnight. Far from it. In fact, it's not in any way a stretch of the imagination to say that what happened in Canada on October 17, 2018, with the legalization of cannabis, was, as a conservative estimation, a once-in-a-lifetime happening. I mean, it's not every day you step outside and a massive industry has erupted overnight, underground one day and highly visible and active the next. Since the legalization of cannabis in Canada, a brand new massive and highly regulated economy has developed. This is no mom-and-pop level sector either. What sprang up since legalization came into effect accounts for not just billions of dollars of investment, but also opportunities for employment and career development, new distribution supply chains, and a whole new retail sector. Insightrix is an independent and agile market research company that's on the leading edge of business and marketing research in Canada. As a company that's on the forefront of market research, it's important for us to dive into this new economy to explore the business potentialities that may exist for our clients, as well as to look to develop intelligent benchmarks for an industry that the whole world's eyes are watching while Canada steps into the spotlight. In other words, we wanted to learn about this new economy and what it was all about. We continue to see the massive investment of resources, time, and energy that major business players in the country have made into this new industry, as well as the moves made by new organizations and companies as the sector develops into an industry that likely won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Hi there, my name's Duncan McGregor, the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at Insightrix Research in Saskatoon, Canada, and your podcast host. Today, we're talking about the cannabis industry in Canada. More specifically, we'll be looking into the cannabis retail sector. Taken apart from cannabis production and distribution, which are fascinating and potentially enormous sectors themselves, cannabis retail is an area in which many market research possibilities exist, from market and brand studies to customer experience research. In this episode of the podcast, we'll be talking to Aaron Murray, a managing partner for Derek Murray Consulting and Associates, and part owner of Saskatoon's newest licensed cannabis retailer, Cannabis YXE. Aaron joins us to discuss some of the realities of opening and operating a retail cannabis outlet in Canada, what brought him to the business, his plans for operating and marketing, and his thoughts about what the future holds, and a bunch more. Brand differentiation, changing consumer buying habits, and stiff regulatory environments. All that and more in this episode of Stories of Market Research, the Insightrix Podcast. We're today with Aaron Murray, managing partner for Derek Murray Consulting and the part owner of Saskatoon's newest cannabis store, Cannabis YXE. How's it going today, Aaron?
It's going quite well. We finally got open today, so
I was going to ask you about that. How's your day going? I imagine it's pretty hectic, right?
You know what? It's been extremely hectic up until today, but today was pretty easy. We kind of tried to open very quietly. We had about 5 customers in the first hour, and that's about what we wanted. Just make sure all the systems work and tills work and so forth.
Sort of a soft launch kind of thing.
Soft launch, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Now, you've opened a bunch of businesses in the past. Is this anything different than opening anything else that you've ever done before?
It's quite different. The regulatory environment's very intense.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of a fair thing. I think our moral license to do business is very important to us. So the regulatory environment is very strict, but we feel like that's about right for what a new business should be. We can sort of tweak it as we go and revisit those regulations and figure out what's necessary and what's not over time. But I think out of the gates, you just don't want to have any problems.
It's one of those things that's guaranteed to change over time, too.
Yes.
Guaranteed, It's one of the reasons why we're talking to you in the first place. It's such a new market and industry and sector, you know, that this thing's going to shake out actually over the next couple of years, right? So what made you want to go into the retail cannabis sector in the first place?
Well, it was really opportunity. It was a bit of dumb luck, really. There was a lottery, and so myself and my partner, a lawyer from Regina called Nan Kwachka, decided to submit. I was doing a bit of work for him, and he wanted to get into the business. We thought, okay, well, let's throw in an application for a couple locations, and lo and behold, we were picked as one of the applicants, and we won the right to apply for a license. Is really what happened through that process, and so we've been fulfilling the requirements as part of the regulatory process to get that license up and running. We had a bunch of things to go through. There's a good character clause and all of that, so we had to demonstrate that we're upstanding citizens. And,
awesome.
yes, that we had no prior retail cannabis knowledge. So
Yeah, exactly. It brings me into a question. What was the appeal? I guess when something's new and brand new in the sector, it can lead to a bit of risk for people. I'm wondering, what was the appeal that led you to think past that risk?
Well, it's in terms of the upside, it's just fascinating to be part of an industry that materialized over a multi-billion-dollar industry that materialized overnight.
Yeah.
On October 17th, on October 16th, there was no cannabis industry. On October 17th, there was a multi-billion-dollar industry.
A booming one, right? Yeah.
And so that was fascinating to be a part of, and to see that come to life, both from the retail and the regulatory side, how everyone dealt with that, and it's been really interesting. And it's sort of, it keeps my mind attuned to all of what's going on in the cannabis sector. So I've been, that's been kind of fun to watch everything, keep an eye on the stock prices and who's doing well, and what production capacity various companies have, and what strategies people are taking, and how it differentiates itself from other sectors and things along those lines. But it's, but on the, why would I be interested in it? It's the risky side is, it's not that risky, frankly. We're dealing with and it's not that complicated. We're dealing with a single product that's in high demand, and it's pretty straightforward. The regulatory environment kind of spelled it out for us, so there's not a lot of flexibility there. Which
is kind of good.
It's quite good.
Yeah.
We do one thing. We're going to try and do it well, and keep our customers happy.
Well, it speaks to the regulatory environment. If you're not from Canada, there are similar regulations around marketing cannabis that are pretty similar to what you see in like tobacco and alcohol.
Yes.
Stuff like no print or broadcast advertising of product, plain packaging and health warnings on the products. You can't use celebrities or mascots to endorse. Pretty regulated environment, really.
Yes.
How will your marketing initiatives take that into account at the store level?
We're going to go a lot through social media, and so we've got to be. There's a couple of regulations on that, but they're pretty good about allowing that. And we don't really have any. We don't know anyone famous, so we're not.
It makes it easy, right?
Yeah. So celebrity endorsements aren't coming our way anyway.
So brand differentiation really is kind of going to be the way you do it for your store, right?
Well, just trying to do it quite well. Our brand is, we're really only carrying probably quite similar product complement to everyone else. There's only so many licensed producers at the moment. You've got your Cannabis, Canafarms, you've got Canopy and Tweed brands, you've got Afria, Aurora, and really at this point in the game, they've only been able to really been up and running for a little while. So our product selection isn't that great, and it's gotten vastly better over the last while. So we're kind of, our selection is probably much better than anyone's been able to offer in the past. But it's still tricky getting supply, and so we've got those relationships to sort out. But it's really going to be about customer service, and so we put all our staff through a massive amount of training.
Okay.
Product knowledge training, not just smoking a joint, but although they would have enjoyed
goes
that.
A little bit beyond that.
Yeah, it goes but beyond that, and trying to make the customer experience quite a pleasant one. Everyone's new to this, and so we're basically we're going after sort of a fine, sort of a high-end wine store or a full-service liquor store where all of the staff would have good product knowledge and would be able to get you the kind of product and effect that people are desiring, because not everyone wants to get just super stoned out of their head and sit and play video games. Some people are seeking different experiences, and so it's really about broadening that experience and saying, okay, you want to write a book, here's maybe something that would help you meditate on that, or here's, if you want to be more social or go out for a night, here's something that might help with that.
Sort of a bit more of a curated experience than sort of a depot experience.
Yeah, thanks for saying that much better than I was trying to. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Well, it sounds like you did a lot of thought to how you're going to differentiate your brand and went to customer service and the customer experience. Did you do any research into that before you went into it? Like any customer segmentation, buyer journeys, any of that kind of stuff? Yeah.
I've been to every pot shop I can think of. I've got a cupboard full of pot from my secret my secret shopper excursions. And so I've enjoyed all of that, and everyone's pretty good at it. Everyone was given a bit of time to pull something together, and so I feel like everyone's put their best foot forward. And it's an interesting business because there's kind of a collegial atmosphere amongst all of the operators at the moment.
Oh, okay, cool.
Everyone's very supportive.
Bit of a community going around.
Yeah. I feel a lot of support from the other operators. And,
awesome.
So yeah, we're all in the same boat. We're doing something new, and what this looks like 5 years from now, I don't think anyone's quite sure, but I think some things, customer service is always going to be a plus.
Yep.
But you look at the sale of like booze, you've got, just recently you've got sort of your fine wine stores, and then you've got your general liquor stores, and then you've got your sort of, they're not a real thing anymore, but what people have historically called the off sales, right?
Oh yeah.
You've got sort of a limited number of SKUs, and so we're really trying to emulate the high-end stores, but that might not be the wheelhouse at the end of the day. It might just be people know what they want, they walk in, they get it, and they'll get it for a cheap price, and off they go. But
and I'm sure you're going to inform your customer experience based on that.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
But I think at the outset, just because it is a new product, having highly trained staff that are sophisticated and can walk consumers through the process is the best way to go. Because even if 5 years from now you don't need that, you still need it now.
Yeah.
Because it's so new to people, and we've got a lot of people coming in who aren't consumers at the moment and just want to try something, or they've got
just entering into the whole market, right?
Yeah. And so the more people like that we can sort of help along. But we still, our biggest competition isn't the other retailers, it's still the black market.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to ask you about that because it's led to a real change in the economy around cannabis, for sure.
Yes.
The legalization since October 17th.
Yes.
You got this different way to buy cannabis than you've ever used in the past.
Yes.
And customer buying patterns are going to be difficult to break. They
Yes.
really are. People are going to have established relationships. Yeah. They're going to have, just habit. Right?
Yeah.
They may be used to a specific price structure, what have you. Do you have any different strategies that you're planning on? Maybe, I know it's not really a customer win back, but more of a way to change the buying habit.
Well, the black market has a less of a regulatory environment.
Yeah, a little bit.
They've probably got, they're not as stringent in production. And so we're seeing whole batches of product being trashed because it didn't meet regulatory standards, and so
quality control right there then. Hey?
Yeah, quality control. So our prices are a little higher because you in the black market that would have sold all day, but we're not being able to sell that. So the black market is our biggest competitor, but I think how that goes away is they're not going to run out of customers, they're going to run out of supply, because all the people who are supplying the black market, I don't see why they don't just become legitimate.
It's a little easier, right?
Why would you take all that risk?
That's
so
it.
I think it's not really the punitive aspects. It's really going to be the financial aspects that it just makes more sense to why not go get a Health Canada license and do this legitimately instead of facing jail time and if you have to work in unending amounts of fines into your business plan, it's probably
not really the best way to go.
No,
jail time and fines.
People like certainty too, and so I think what happens to the black market is it loses supply. And then when it starts to lose supply, then the price will go up, and then you'll see us competing more on a level playing field. And then at some point, you'll just see it entirely disappear. You'll never see it entirely disappear, but
well, Prohibition was in the 30s, and we're still seeing bootleg alcohol sales, right?
Yes,
so
but it's such a minuscule amount at this point that
Yeah.
I just don't see it as being
eating right into your market for sure.
No, over time it'll dissipate, I believe.
Yeah, and when you take into other accounts like customer experience, convenience for the buyer, and all that stuff, I imagine that changing things pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Just a matter of time and shaking the cobwebs out, right?
We're trying to change the general comprehension or the image of the industry from Otto of the Simpsons fame to maybe something a little more sophisticated.
Well, you say. Is there any education that's going on at the store level to say maybe sway people out of that market and maybe onto yours?
No,
None, right?
No. That's something we're leaving up to the police. They're doing a good job of it. They're faced with their own challenges, and I don't think we can compete. And we're winning over customers. I was talking to other retailers who customers are finding more success with the product they're getting from these stores because they know exactly what it is. If you're buying from the black market, it could be a random hodgepodge of whatever it is. But if you really are a sophisticated consumer and you want to have a sativa strain or an indica strain or something very precise, high THC content strain, you're going to want to buy from a store that's going to tell you this one has 22% THC content, this much CBD content, it's got, and it's an indica strain. And you know exactly how you're going to feel. Because I think the randomness of how cannabis could make you feel is unwelcome for the customer. Because you're one day you're smoking a joint and you feel great, and the next day you smoke it and you feel terrible and you're antisocial, and it's not the experience you'd hope for.
It sort of removes the pig in a poke aspect of it, then, right? You know, you're not just taking somebody's word for it. You're actually getting something that has been tested in a lab. You know exactly what you got. That kind of thing. So that's pretty cool.
And there's other dangers with black market cannabis where they're upping the impact of it with lacing with other products,
with other drugs and other products. Yeah,
and that's like fentanyl laced cannabis or what have you. And that's not something anyone wants.
No. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about some of the other market research that you might have done before getting into this and why you're working. Like customer experience, like we talked about it before, I imagine you've got in-house tracking, something like that along those lines.
Yes.
What kind of market segmentation or market studies did you do before you came in?
Well, in looking at this and trying to do projections, I used the Denver model.
Okay.
We've got a really similar profile in terms of rural-urban split. Incomes, revenues, all those things. So I took and they've legalized
about a year and a half now, 2 years?
Ago. Yeah, so that was a really good, strong indicator of the kind of market we could see here. And that hasn't held up, partly mostly because we just don't have the stores open yet. We don't have the product yet. Yeah. So once we have all the stores open that we're allotted, and those stores have all the product they can sell, I think we're going to see a similar market profile to what we've seen in Denver.
Oh, okay.
Which would mean, I forget what the sales per capita were, $200 a year per capita per person of age. And so that was the largest bit of research I did.
No, it's super informative, though, because if you're able to draw a correlation between this market and one that's fully established, I imagine that made it a little easier to make that decision to move in, right?
Yeah, and we knew exactly we knew the margin of error, and we knew what we were looking at, and sort of that's going to be probably in a year and a half, 2 years where we'll be at in terms of sales.
When it came to doing your segmentation, did you notice anything surprising? Like, were there any customer groups that showed up that you didn't even expect to show up? I guess it's kind of early
it's too early.
It's a little early to tell, right?
Curiously, the first guy who showed up today was from Oregon.
Echo Drive.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeez, it came a long way.
It's like, it's legal there too, right?
So that was kind of interesting. Yeah. But this is a great city to open in. Yeah. Because it is a fun city. It's a college town. We're part of a downtown scene that's really emerged over the last 10, 15 years. Yeah. It's coming to its own. There's a critical mass of shopping, boutique shops, pubs, restaurants, everything you would want downtown. And it's really enjoyable for us to become a part of that, just because that's our wheelhouse. We want to be a part of people's good times and be a part of a really thriving community. So I think we want to be in the early goings. We thought, well, maybe people won't want to be seen buying cannabis. We should buy something off the beaten track where people can discreetly go in and out and buy their product. But then after further review, we thought, no, let's be loud and proud. Let's locate in a really high traffic destination area and be part of and blend in with the community and make this the kind of shop that everyone would feel welcome in and people would be proud of that they're neighbors with. And so that was our rationale for the location we chose.
Well, it's got to be great for the area too, because any increase in foot traffic is always great for the neighborhood. Yeah, right? Like you get more people walking around in the neighborhood. All the other businesses benefit from that, right?
Yes.
Rising tides lift all boats and all that.
It's true. If I would have been more if I had more time, I probably would have. It would have been a good play to buy an underperforming location and put the store in the middle of it and then. and then be able to sort of have a higher traffic location just because of your own.
Yeah, you can see you're really benefiting from that.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any plans for secondary shops? Just talking about that.
Well,
like down in Regina, I know
no.
you've got your it's by
It's
lottery.
by
still
lottery,
at this point, right?
so it's not really an option at the moment. And they're
Okay.
probably not going to release more licenses for I think it's probably another 2.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they don't even know the impact of the existing licenses because not everyone's open. So I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's not in the cards at the moment anyway.
Okay. How about hopes and plans for the retail sector for cannabis? Like I know right now there is a prohibition against edible marijuana in Canada, and that's looking to get revisited come, I believe, October.
Yes.
It was about a year that prohibition was going to hold up, and then they were going to look at new regulations around that, sort of limiting edibles and how you can package and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you see that actually making a big dent in your business when it gets in?
Yes, and I think that's where genuine market growth will come from.
Oh, okay.
I think right now we're servicing people. There's some market growth in terms of new cannabis customers, but I think that will be where there's a major market growth. I think that's the format and that's the type of product people desire more.
Yep.
Smoking is not exactly the most flattering of things to do these days.
It's also been available.
Yeah.
People have been able to access that product
Yes.
for how long, right?
Yeah.
So if you're able to bring in a new packaged product.
Yeah, and I'm conflicted about how I feel about edibles in some ways.
Yeah.
I feel like gummies and things along those lines, you just shouldn't. You shouldn't have drugs dressed up as something that if any child found it, they would go to town on it.
Okay.
And that's a bit of a challenge. So, and fortunately, that's not my problem. It's the regulatory body that has
Makes
to
it
figure
easier,
that out.
right? Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be writing that, but that'll be a challenge for them. And I think they did quite well with the first framework they introduced, and I think they'll probably do quite well with that. I think probably it'll be packaging will be the way to get around it, so you can't have. Kids just can't access it. It's properly packaged so they can't get in.
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of dangerous things in the house. It's just, but they're properly packaged. Whereas black market gummies, you can buy a bag of them and
You'd never know the difference, right?
you'd never know the difference. And kids would eat all of them if they got their hands on them.
Yeah.
So I think if you package them in single bubble wraps and make sure that kids can't get at them, and it's probably the workaround. But
they're
we'll see
looking
how
at
they come.
limiting THC level and stuff like that kind of thing too.
And the bigger thing isn't really limiting THC level, it's telling people how much THC is in it. And that's been the big trouble that people have had with edibles. You've got someone mixing them that doesn't mix them right, so one gummy has a tiny bit of THC and then the other one has a ton. Once this regulatory environment is sorted through, you'll be able to look at this and know exactly how much THC is in it, and you'll know what the impact's going to be to your psyche at the end of the day.
Yeah, and from my research, the effects of edible marijuana can be a little bit different than people are used to. So it's having those really defined amounts on the packaging itself is going to make a big difference, I think. Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you had beer and it was anywhere from 3% to 12%. You want to know before you get behind the wheel of your car after having a beer if the one you had was 4% or was 12%. So
definitely.
Or before you do anything. And so those regulatory the regulations that they'll set out will be not much needed.
Sounds to me like actually working under this regulatory framework, a lot of people might think of it as a hindrance. To you, it seems to be really helping a lot, actually, because it's actually delineating straightforward lines. It shows you exactly where you can go, what you can't do, and it lays it all out for you.
Yeah, we haven't been limited by it at all. It's onerous to comply with, for sure, but I feel like someone did a lot of the thinking on our behalf as to how to not tick off our community. And so I'm appreciative of that, because frankly, if there was no regulations, we'd probably get drummed out of town. Like if it's not us, it's going to be someone else doing something offside. Yeah. And then we as an industry we all wear that, and so everybody's complying with these regulations. Everyone's doing well within that, and so I think it's a good thing. And we haven't seen anything go on nationally. There's been no news stories about incidents. You think about alcohol consumption and the incidents that are associated with that. We haven't really seen anything. It's a couple kids playing.
The press has been pretty good, though.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Yeah.
And I was going to actually ask you if you were planning on doing any sentiment monitoring or anything along those lines when it comes to that kind of thing.
Oh no, actually, but that's I hadn't thought of that. That's an interesting notion. I was watching the polling fairly closely in the early going, and people seem to be broadly supportive of cannabis. I'm not sure what happens if we see a switch in government at the end of the summer. We'll see what happens with that. There's been some.
There's been a little. There's been some talk about that. There's sure a lot of money on the table right now.
Yeah, but realistically, we could see a delay in edibles where a new government might want to take a harder look at that and say, okay, well, this is, we want to see it roll forward in this way. Or maybe they don't see it roll forward at all. But at this point, there's a lot of momentum and there's a lot of work been put into it. And there's a lot of investment that's been made. And so if you have a pro-business government coming in, they may be reticent to throw a wrench into the system there.
Because ultimately, this thing got set up as I think everybody, by the time October 17th came along, pretty solid businesses in place. This isn't really ground-level grassroots stuff, right?
No.
This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right?
Yes.
So,
and the people we've been dealing with have been sophisticated and well-managed, all of these companies.
All the way through, I was going to ask you about relationships with distributors and suppliers and stuff like that. I know that's been kind of an issue for some retailers.
Yes.
Has that been pretty much your number one thing, is maintaining relationships with your suppliers?
Yeah. I've only made one order. So I'm 1 week in.
Fingers crossed, right?
And folks were quite generous with us. It's interesting. In Saskatchewan, we have a very different system than elsewhere in Canada.
Yeah.
We're dealing with LPs, the licensed producers, directly.
Yeah.
In Alberta, BC, Ontario, I think Manitoba, but don't hold me to that. There's a central provincial buying group. Yeah. So the government is buying on behalf of all the industry. Mm-hmm. And there's some good components to that where there's a certain buying power. At the moment, it's really advantageous for those provinces because there's a shortage of products. So Saskatchewan's basically getting the leftover crumbs from whatever Ontario and Alberta and BC don't pick up. Going forward, however, we'll be at a real advantage in that we'll be able to buy directly from the licensed producers and get deals from them. And we don't have to deal with government warehousing and things along those lines, which is expensive. We're going to have to pay for a whole other level of logistical support to bring the product in, warehouse it, all that. Instead of we can skip all that, buy direct from the producer, and so it's a little bit of short-term pain, but I think Saskatchewan might have done things more advantageously for the Saskatchewan industry.
Yeah, well, it allows you to differentiate your brand a little bit different.
Yes.
But eventually, if you're making deals, maybe moving more product than other people, you're going to be able to sell at a discounted rate.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to advertise that, I don't think. There does seem to be some regulation around price advertising. Yes. But at the same time, word of mouth is a big deal.
Yeah,
word of mouth, especially at the retail level.
Yeah, and I think like
I draw this comparison. When you go to Alberta, you're on the way back from Alberta. If you're stopping at the liquor store, the superstore liquor store in Medicine Hat, you'll notice that there's a substantial difference because Alberta liquor producers or liquor retailers are allowed to buy direct from the producers, and that's why you see those deals there. So I think similarly in Saskatchewan, we'll probably have that same advantage in the cannabis industry.
Well, I really want to thank you for coming in.
Sure.
Your store opened up today. That's why
Yes.
I see Cannabis. It's on 2nd Avenue in Saskatoon. It's available on social media as well. You can get it on Facebook, Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram. That's
Excellent.
our two big pushes.
I'll make sure to put links to that and maybe a link up to your website on our...
We don't have our website set up yet.
We don't. It's not that... it's more complicated than that because
of course.
it has to be it'll be a retail.
You have to have an e-commerce storefront.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's a whole lot of...
Getting open was that's baby steps.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure to link your social on our website.
Sure.
And
Thank you very much.
make sure it's available.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming in. Cheers.
And there you have it. We'd like to thank Aaron Murray for taking the time out to talk to us and share some of his learnings as a new business owner in the new cannabis retail industry. We'd also like to thank him for sharing some of his insight on where the industry will be headed in the future. Having a chance to talk with him and get his ideas and hear about his experiences opening his retail cannabis store, Cannabis YXE, was super informative. If you'd like to check out Cannabis YXE, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. We'll post links to both of their social channels on the Insightrix website so you can check them out. You can also visit Cannabis YXE itself at 141 2nd Avenue North in Saskatoon. We'd also like to thank you, our loyal and continually expanding fan base. And since you're already a fan of the show, why not make it easier for other folks like you who have an interest in market research to find? Next time you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever else you access the podcast, take a moment to rate and review the show. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode. And if you'd like to learn more about Insightrix Research and about some of the work we do, please check out our website, www.insightrix.com. Thanks again for listening. We're going to be back in another few weeks with another episode of Stories of Market Research, the Insightrix Podcast.